Today's video, we're going to be checking out the McFarlane toy, Stranger Things. This is Dustin. Okay, let's grab the tape measure, figure out how tall Dustin is. The answer to that is about 6.5 inches. To also show you how he stacks up with the other figures that we looked at, here he is next to a dismal looking 11 and also Hopper. Which actually, Hopper, my favorite so far of the lot. I have to admit though that Dustin is just as good detail wise and sculpt wise. Does look just like him. 11 though, still don't know what's happened with 11. But McFarlane Toys is trying their hand at it again. We're going to be getting ourselves a Punk 11, so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it can replace, if it looks better and it looks just as good as these figures, I probably won't end up putting this one out on display. I'll just kind of put her to the side. So Dustin does look like he fits size-wise to the other characters. I've already gone ahead and put him on a display stand. To be fair, it's actually not the display stand that he came with. Rather, I think it's the display stand that came included with Hopper. The only reason why is this is the stand that he came included with. McFarlane ran a big piece of tape right across the back area here on the back of the packaging, and as a result, it's extremely sticky. To not cause any damage to the backdrop, I've simply just used a different display stand, but the stand is exactly identical to this one. I'm going to maybe take some Goo Gone or something like that and try to remove the adhesive on the back of that. That's really a shame. But nonetheless, he comes with his display stand. I have to say he does use one. He's very dependent, let's say that, on his display stand. I have a real tough time getting this guy to stand. Either he falls forward or he falls back. He never seems to stay right where he wants to. It's only by sheer luck that he's actually standing right now. So let's not jinx things any bit further and talking about the way he stands. Instead, why don't we talk about the accessories that come included with him? For starters, he comes with a backpack. Backpack's not too bad. It does have some soft rubbery plastic to it, so you can fit it over his arms. I'll show you that in a second. I don't know McFarlane though. One thing I've noticed with the trend of them is that when they put wear to anything, they seem to want to just slap light brown paint to it. Not everything. I granted, maybe The Walking Dead could be dirt, could be, just dust and just old and stuff like that. But not, at the very least, not for a Stranger Things figure. I don't think the go-to end-all be-all is simply just let's add brown paint to everything to make it look worn. They could have just mirrored the same effect by using a different shade of blue, and I think it would have worked just well. As a result, it kind of just looks like it almost looks like the knapsack's been painted, and the paint is starting to wear off the knapsack. Sigh. At the very least, that's really the only problem I have with the figure is the knapsack. So if that is the biggest problem that I have with this particular figure, then I'm perfectly okay with that. As you can see, it's just a matter of just like putting a knapsack on a small child. A knapsack fits very well onto his back. No, it doesn't open. It's more just a solid piece of plastic, but at the very least, it does fit over his back, as that would be what a backpack should do. Backpack. I'm saying backpack a lot. It also comes with his flashlight, which I don't know, and I can't tell whether it's supposed to be on. It does have some silver on it. It does have some white on it. If that is to convey the fact that the light on the flashlight is on, okay, we'll go with that. They could have also just painted it more just a solid white, and I would believe it a little bit more than this little bit of silver that's added to it. Silver also has been painted on the switch, as well as the bottom section, I guess, where the batteries would be going. This would be the 80s after all, so it probably would take these giant D batteries. Remember flashlights back in the 80s? Remember those big flashlights that was attached to the battery? Like the big battery at the bottom of it? One thing, let me just talk about this a little bit, and it's already starting to happen on this particular figure, is the thumb. The thumb is breaking, and it's breaking my heart to say that. I have yet to have any problems with this thumb But I don't know the material on the figures themselves, but the thumb is starting to break on poor Dustin. So be mindful when you are putting the flashlight into his hand. Don't probably do it too often. And you think to yourself, I can't put an accessory into the character's hand too often. If you are going to do that, be very mindful. As you can see, the proof is in the pudding, ladies and gentlemen. There's a big crack, a big split that's starting to happen on poor Lucas's thumb. Oh, the quality of McFarlane toys. Comes also with an interchangeable hand that has a big noticeable peg in the palm section. That's because you can replace out the hand and put in the more flat palm. And you can go ahead and take said walkie-talkie, one of the other things that it comes included with, that has a big noticeable hole on the back there. That's because it's supposed to fit into the little slot here. I've yet to have any problems, knock on wood, with the thumb on this hand. But I guess it could also run the risk of giving me problems because the thumb sticks straight out. And if you're not careful, you might actually clip it when you're putting the flashlight into his hand. It's like with McFarlane toys, they're almost there. They're like this far away from being there for being a good figure company. And then ultimately something goes wrong with the figures, whether it be like loose or just poor materials used for things like thumbs, face sculpt. In this case, the face sculpt's pretty good on Dustin, but it just pains me. It pains me what they do to these figures. He also comes included with his compass, more of a translucent piece of plastic with a little bit of paint added to the top there to add the, I guess, to point out the different degrees. And that's it. That's all he comes with. While I'm talking about this, I keep looking at that thumb. That makes me so sad. I'm going to go ahead and take add further stress. But I just want to show you the little thumb, the little stumpy. This little pig is going to go to the hospital, not so much the market. Oh, poor little thumb. Poor, tiny little thumb. Okay, so let's have a look at Lucas, which, Dustin, I don't know how many times I called him Lucas. Dustin, keep getting sidetracked by his thumb. Having a look at Dustin, it is 10 times better, this figure is, than 11. 11 didn't look anything like 11. I think this looks much more like Dustin. Although it doesn't come with some sacrifice. No, I'm not talking about the thumb again. It feels to me, and more so looks to me than it does feel to me. I want to point out his face. There's a certain little bit of airbrushing to it where like the face looks spotted. And the more I look at it, the more it bothers me because from a distance, it doesn't look bad. It does look like Dustin, but it's when you get close to the figure. You know what it actually reminds me of? No, what does it remind you of? It reminds me of those, you go into the malls and there's that 3D printing companies. They're everywhere. Go in, it scans your face and it makes you an action figure. Well, the action figures never are as 100% perfect. As you look at the samples, and let me just draw up as close to possibly I can get close to the figure's face here. See how it has spotted? Almost looks like it's been stuccoed, or it's as if somebody took like a little tiny paintbrush and just kind of went like this until it finally finished his face. I dare not think that McFarlane is going the route of 3D printing because I don't think this is a good route to go. Sure, yes, from a distance it looks pretty good, but then when you get really close to it, you can notice this. It's especially more noticeable up at the eyebrow area. It does look like a 3D printed face. Now, I don't want to use the comparison of 11, so I'm going to bring in Hopper so you guys can see the difference between the two. Hopper, I don't see that. I see just paint over top of plastic. Dustin, on the other hand, has this weird sort of sponging effect that's all across his face. From a distance, not so bad. Up close, you notice it. As for the rest of his outfit, he's got the longer jacket with his t-shirt underneath, sporting his Dustin cap, which is not removable, in case somebody was wondering. Hair sculpt is pretty good, actually. I really think that's nice. as well as his corduroy pants. Ah, yes, corduroy pants in the 80s. That's what I think I must have owned, probably about 5 pairs of corduroy pants, and they all seem to be shades of brown. Like that seemed to be going hand. No, that's not true. That's not true. I had navy, I had black, and I had about 4 different shades of brown. That was like the go-to. Corduroy and kids in the 80s. Well, Dustin here is sporting his own pair of corduroys, which for corduroys as they go, it looks pretty good. Paint is kept very minimal here. It really relies only on the one singular color. He's also got his sneakers. Kind of look like a bit of a jarbled mess. I'm not really sure what's happening here in the sneaker. It kind of looks like the original mold got chewed up by a dog. It doesn't really seem to have any real sense of definition to it. I see sneakers. I see something in the regards of a stripe on the shoe, but it's really hard to make out what exactly has happened with these shoes. They're a bit on the disastrous side. So face is a little rough, at least from the standpoint of paint. Shoes are a little rough. Otherwise, the rest of the figure is really good. Posability on this guy, his head rotates all the way around. Arms hinge outward. Rotation all the way around. Has a bend at the elbow. Rotates at the forearm. And also rotates at the hand. I'm being very careful not to bend his thumb. Oh, poor thumb. Doesn't seem to have any sort of upper torso ball joint or waist swivel. His legs split outward, however. Swivel at the knee, bend at the knee, and also articulation in the feet. Now let me also mention this too, which I might have even said at the beginning of this review. His feet don't sit flat, nor do they really have the proper means to articulate the feet in a well enough ability that he stands. Standing this guy, once again, not to sound like a broken record, is difficult. Display stand would be very crucial for this guy. Luckily, the folks over at McFarlane Toys include the display stand, which ultimately I think I might just display all the Stranger Things figures with display stands so I don't have to run the risk of the figures falling over, because I'm sure they will. If you can overlook the rather strange paint application done to Dustin's face, he's otherwise a pretty good looking figure. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's happened exactly with his face, but one can't help but look at it and feel like you're looking at a 3D printed face sculpt, and I hope maybe that's not the route that they're going to be going. It may be a cheaper route for them to produce head sculpts, but I think there's cost to be made for that, at least at the cost of a quality figure. Yes, everything about Dustin does come together, everything else about Dustin comes together nicely, but the face seems slightly off. From a distance, it looks like a really good head sculpt. When you get it closer and closer to your face, and more importantly to your eyes, you know something just doesn't jive. As for the rest of the figure, once again, they've gone to the tried and true, well, let's put wear paint on the figure by adding a light shade of brown. I don't think it's necessary for the backpack because the figure isn't supposed to look like an antique, nor is it supposed to look like the backpack was painted and the paint is wearing off. It may work for Walking Dead figures. I don't think it necessarily works here for Stranger Things figures. And, of course, let's talk a little bit more about the thumb. The quality of plastic is debatable. Some of the figures, as I've picked them up and looked at, I feel like the figures have felt a little bit more like clay, feeling something like a little bit more brittle. Dustin, unfortunately, is the other end of the scale. His thumb feels very soft, the plastic that they used for it, and as a result, as you already saw in this review, his thumb is already starting to detach itself from the rest of the hand, which is really off-putting. If you can overlook soft, pliable hands, almost to the point of breaking, and a 3D printed face sculpt, which I don't 100% know if that's the route that they're going, but it definitely does seem that way. If you can overlook those two little flaws, Dustin's a pretty good looking figure. And in fact, I might even say, next to Hopper, he's the best figure from the wave so far. Still, there's other figures to be picked up for the Stranger Things. I'm definitely looking forward to getting the Demogorgon. And then, of course, we've got ourselves what looks to be, I guess, Series 2 or Series 3, Punk 11, and we're also going to be getting Steve, so looking forward to that. In the meantime, today's video, we were having a look at The Walking Dead. Stranger Things, this was Dustin. Can't help but notice that Dustin's slightly leaning back. He's leaning backward. He's probably going to fall over. So we're going to wrap this video up right now. As always, guys, thanks for watching as you always do. If you haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button, make sure you do so. More videos will be coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. He's totally gonna fall. Oh, not yet. Oh, he's gonna do it soon. Okay, maybe he's not. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.